ripples make waves. So let's say you donate $1 or you share a Chive Charities story. Chances are that's going to impact someone, and that person's going to go out and tell someone else. It maybe lightens your day a little bit more, where you're going to hold that door open for the lady behind you, or you're going to buy coffee for somebody, that's not expecting it. And you're just making the world a better place.
What is up, Merce Nation? Javier Mercedes here for yet again another Passion in Progress show, where we talk to inspiring individuals, and hopefully through hearing their stories, you too are motivated to go out and pursue your passions. And on today's show, I could not be more excited because we have the executive director of Chive Charities, Brian Mercedes, also happens to share my last name, and my brother. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, which I know there's tens of thousands of you out there, you're not seeing double. I am, your older brother, and it is great to be here.
Let me rip off some stats here. To date, when did Chive Charities start?
2012.
Since 2012, they have garnered almost $13 million in donations to their charity, their 501c3. And at this point, they are helping out about 1.5 recipients every week, which is crazy. And besides me wanting to ramble on about how awesome Chive Charities is, let the audience know what you guys do.
What we try to do is we try to inspire the world to champion the underdogs in need of public awareness and financial assistance. And specifically, we help about 3 categories of individuals and nonprofits, those being disabled first responders, veterans, and people with the rarest of rare medical conditions. A lot of times people are like, what do you mean by underdog? So those forgotten stories, the people that you don't hear about. We like to purchase really quality of life enhancing items, things that they couldn't afford for themselves. And in a lot of times it's, individuals, whether it's a veteran or a first responder or someone with a rare medical illness, something that they've gone to their insurance companies, they won't cover it. They've gone to other charities, they won't cover it. The government certainly won't cover it. So we swoop in, and where we see that it's not fair that they have to pay out of pocket, something that really is needed for their family, we'll come in and purchase that item for them.
So to give the audience an idea, backstory, I help out with their media. So I help create videos and other social assets for them. Most recently, by the time this recording is released, I believe our most recent one is the Paradise Fires, which we could get into later. But to give you guys an idea of what he's talking about with veterans, there was like a veteran that just needed an air conditioning system. And you guys helped him out with that, all the way to building whole wheelchair accessible fields for kids and a whole playground. And this isn't just some pushover playground. This is I don't want to swear on the podcast, but it's a pretty bad A playground.
Well, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. And what we want to do is set these individuals and these nonprofits up for success. So we're not going to come in and just build a half A ramp. We're going to come in and we're going to build really a playground for kids with special needs at a special needs daycare, for example, is what you're talking about. Yeah. And it's going to be something that's going to live on for 50, 100 years. And people from, the surrounding 20 to 50 miles that were having to take their kids to another city and travel 2 hours per day to get to a daycare that would be able to facilitate their special needs child's needs, they're going to be able to take them right next door to this amazing playground, this amazing special needs daycare. So we are pretty broad, obviously. So people are like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we did that for a reason. Part of that is back in the day, we both worked under a umbrella company called the Chive Media Company. And back when it started to really grow organically back in 08, 09.
It's blog time. When blogs were really big.
At that time, the Chive was this amazing kind of reprieve, this 10, 15 minutes of the day where you're doing your TPS reports, you're stressed out, you just, 10 to 15 minutes you can go and you can check out some funny photos, funny videos, you can go for some feel-good content. There's this incredible community that's online. So there's this comment section, and everywhere else in the world you were seeing just things get negative online, and you would go to the Chive and you'd see people just be really, really positive. And then back in about 2010, 2011, we started to see people submit there were obviously submitting photos. They were submitting their videos in hopes that would make it on the Chive. And, galleries were getting 2 to 4 million views. So people started to ask for help. And this incredible thing happened where the community responded and they said, hey, you know what? This is one of our own. We're going to help them out. First really big campaign that we ended up doing was for a volunteer fire department in Fluvanna County. And it lost its government grant. And if they didn't raise $30,000, they were going to have to shut their door. And back in, I think it was like April 2011, one of the volunteer firefighters there ended up emailing one of my bosses, your old boss, John Resnick, who has also done the Passion Progress show.
I believe it's episode 16 if you want to check it out.
Not that you have them all memorized or anything, but he ended up writing this Hail Mary email to John. John really didn't know the power of the Chive or the Chive community at that time either. He just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to write this story. I'll put you have a donation link. Cool. We'll do that. I can't promise anything. You guys need 30,000. I'll tell them we need 30,000. Lo and behold, John writes a story, kind of bookends it with hey, what else do you guys need beyond money? And Kenny George, who was the volunteer fire department firefighter, ended up saying, you know what? We always have these children that, if they're riding in the ambulance, whether they need to be rescued or their parents need to be rescued, it's really scary to ride in an ambulance at any age. But what we would love to do is give them some sort of teddy bear to kind of take that edge off. And, lo and behold, John bookended asking for teddy bears. After about 2 hours, we had raised $30,000. And hundreds of teddy bears were sent off to the fire department. And it was wow, we just saved this rescue department, and it's still open to this day, which is fantastic because of the effort of just this community. And at that time, I don't know if you guys remember what a flash mob is. That used to be a thing. And so we kind of coined this term because nobody was doing this, $30,000 in 2 hours for an individual or a cause. We termed it the flash charity model. And since then, you've had universities study the model and things like that. You've had GoFundMe come along. You've had CrowdRise. You've had all these places come on. And you see that a little bit more now than you did back then. But back then, we were kind of the ones that pioneer that storytelling and kind of motivating and, I guess, getting a bunch of individuals to donate a little. And at that time, it was you would get 5,000 individuals to donate on average, $25 rather than going after the big fish, so that's what we kind of are made up at Chive Charities. Our average donation comes in, it's $25 to $30. And it's a lot of people that are donating for the first time in their lives. They've seen their parents, their grandparents donate, and maybe they've been jaded and seen these marble statues and, in the nonprofit world, people throwing $100,000 parties for their, for their nonprofit and their employees. Well, what we wanted to do at Chive Charities was, you're donating to Susie Q. Here's what we're going to do for her. Your $5 are going to Susie Q. And so it was kind of using that individual to raise awareness for the cause. And so we wanted it to be so broad because there were a few different causes back then that we saw that we wanted to help.
It plays towards the internet. You guys are goodwill doers of the internet. What's interesting of what you said is for people to reference this, there was no GoFundMe. There was no CrowdRise. I made a post the other day. A couple episodes back, we did Deliver Fund, who helps out with taking out human traffickers in the US. And in that Facebook, I just did a little video about it, and Facebook recognized that this is a 501c3 that I'm doing a little promotional video for. And it just automatically says, hey, would you like to set up a donation to this thing with this post? And I was like, it's crazy how that works today. Can you talk about in the beginning, where was Chive Charities and how are you bootstrapped into just helping people? How big's your team? How do you start to be a charitable force within the internet?
How we kind of were operating back then, this was April 2012. It took a little bit of time to look at all of the categories, because in a 501c3, you're supposed to help a charitable cause, this charitable category. And we knew that we wanted to help veterans. They're kind of the cornerstone of the Chive. We knew first responders needed help, especially if they're disabled. And we were at that time, after we had done, like those flash charity campaigns, we had done 2 or 3 at this point. And we were getting a lot of people that were, sending us these applications, not applications at this point, just emails saying, hey, I know of this person that is one of 20 people in the world. They're the only person in the United States that has this condition. Can you help them? Because the insurance company isn't helping them because they don't recognize this therapy as a way to treat this thing that they haven't heard of. So we were like, you know what? That's not fair. Let's help these people. And then we were also getting a lot of people everybody knows somebody affected by cancer. So we were getting things like people asking for, like I've got an aunt that has cancer. Can you help them? Well, we kind of looked at the landscape at that time, and there still is 10,000 charities out there that will help cancer and specific types of cancer. So we made a decision early on that cancer wasn't necessarily going to be a part of our charitable cause.
Every decision that you guys make, even now, is so hard.
Yeah.
And just the sentence that you just said is like, we're not going to help out people with cancer, but it sucks.
It sucks. And honestly, we've had some family deal with it. We've had friends that have dealt with it. And, it was just something that, we want to be specific, and we want to make an impact, and we want to tell stories that people have never told. And you turn on the TV and you go to social media, especially nowadays. Maybe it wasn't like it is today back then, but you just see all of the same stories over and over again. We wanted to do something that was different and help out. We wanted to fill in the gaps, and that's what we wanted to do with Chive Charities. So at that time, we were starting to get 10 to 20 of these emails a week because people were seeing the incredible impact that the community could make. And we said, okay, let's put these into categories. What are we getting, and where can we actually fill in the gaps that aren't being filled? And that's where we came up with the veterans, disabled veterans, first responders, and people with really rare medical illnesses. And then we came to help out nonprofits that are also associated with all of those categories. So at that time, it was like getting in emails, calling them up, calling doctors and saying, hey, is this
it just
legit?
you?
This was just me for about 8 to 10 months. And luckily back then, if we didn't have a big team, didn't really have to do a lot of accounting, basically hired on a third-party accounting firm, we had some third-party lawyers that helped us go ahead and do our incorporation articles, basically file for our 501c3, which if you remember back in 2012, there was all the government shutdowns were happening for the first time. And it was like, there was months where, if you submitted something, you wouldn't hear back. Well, we submitted our application back in June of 2012 and didn't hear back until February of 2014. So
you guys are helping people out during this time.
So we're helping out people during this time.
Is that illegal?
That's not illegal, actually. So they did contact us, or actually when we submitted the form, they basically let you know, like, sorry, we're going to get to it. And now they're a lot quicker. But at that time, they had a kind of like IRS page where it was like you would fill in your application number and they'd be like, we're now up to, like this month. And it was like, we were looking at it and it was like, we're now up to anybody who has submitted in November of 2011. like, okay, so we've got 6-7 more months of people to get through, and it stayed on November 2011 for more than a year.
Oh my
and so
gosh.
I'm sitting here, this is why I have no hair, pulling my hair out, thinking like, oh my gosh, like we have this incredible community, and we started taking donations in December of 2012. And right away, it was kind of a success. I think we were filling in that gap, and we had this community that wanted to help people. They just didn't have a place to do it. Mm-hmm. And like we had said, there was no GoFundMe, there was no Facebook charity donation button, there was none of this stuff. So it was kind of the first for at least our users and the Chivers and Chive Nation. It was their first kind of vehicle to really feel like they were having an impact on something and something that they trusted. Fast forward, we moved to Austin, and I hired this amazing woman, Angie Cohn, who's now Angie Burke. And she has a social work background, master's in social work. And she was kind of perfect to be that frontline and helped me develop our application system to make it not just be email based, but we developed it in a way that you did have to work to submit, because we didn't want people to just go looking for wholesale charity and like, I filled out this form, so I'm going to send it to a million different charities. Well, we're talking about life-changing help. So like, you got to want it. Help us help you. And if you aren't willing to sit down and fill out this application for 45 minutes to an hour and go talk to your doctor and go get receipts for things that you want us to purchase for you, then you know what, like there's somebody else over here. In fact, there's 90 people over here with, you know, a really rare medical illness.
Half
and they're
of a
just
brain.
Yes. Half of a brain. And yes, that did actually
Shout out
happen. Roz, we love you. So it was like, okay, let's put this application online. And then we started to see, you know, people were really filling them out. And a lot of times the people that were applying were people saying, hey, you know what, you're our last hope, you know, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. But over and over again, we would hear that. It's like, I've gone everywhere else. You don't know how many charities have told me no. And I can't believe that. Like, I don't actually believe you said that you're going to help us, but we don't believe it until we show up with, say, a $45,000 wheelchair accessible van that's in their name. It's in their parking, or it's in their garage. And they're like, you actually did that. You said you were going to do it and you did it. And that's incredible, because like nobody else would do this. So
we just talked about Roz. What's even crazier about that one is we were going to give her a van or a vehicle of some sort, did the story on it, and somebody saw the story and was like, nah, we'll take care of the car and then use that money to help her with other things. I thought that was pretty cool. That's like the power of storytelling within your guys' organization.
Absolutely. And so what Javier's talking about is a little girl in Sydney, Ohio, I want to say 45 minutes north of Dayton. Go Flyers. And Roz has this really unique story. She started having seizures when she was 2 and got diagnosed with Rasmussen encephalitis. I think I'm saying that correctly. It was really sad because her parents were faced with this decision. By the time she was 3, she was having multiple really bad seizures a day, and they were starting to really deteriorate her brain and the rest of her body. And the decision was, you either remove part of her brain that's causing the seizures, or she's eventually going to pass away due to these seizures. And her mom was a dancer, ballet dancer, teaches ballet, and she had this, she's like, you know, I've always envisioned having Rosalind tap dancing, and if they remove part of her brain, like, is she gonna be able to walk? So much fear going into this, but they had to make that decision. And sure enough, they go in there. She has her brain. We have pictures and video of this. Her brain is exposed for 2 days while they put the electrodes on her brain. And the doctors come and say, hey, you know what? Like, it's actually the whole right half of her brain. We thought that we were going to be able to get away with just removing part of it. We actually have to remove half of her brain. Like, think about that. And they had to make the snap decision to say, okay, let's go ahead and do it. Let's save her life, or at least give her a fighting chance. Doctors didn't know what to expect. I mean, it's half of your brain. So could she walk? Could she talk? Didn't know. Lo and behold, surgery is a success. Within a year, she's coming back. She's not only walking, talking, she's running. She is dancing at her year checkup with her doctor, showing her doctor her moves. And we've got, video of her tap dancing and everything. But we basically needed to help her out. She is hooked up to all these machines that keep her alive while she's sleeping. And there's been a couple times in the past few years where the electricity has gone out and she falls asleep a couple hundred times, or she stops breathing a couple hundred times a night. And we wanted to get a generator for her. We wanted to get a van for her because, her current van had 125,000 miles on it. And it was literally catching on fire right before we did this story.
Also, the gas gauge was broke, so she
didn't
know when the car was actually out of gas
right.
or not. Also, side note, they donated their other car to another family that was in need. So,
and that's what you see with these families that we help. More and more, they want to pay it forward. And there's this thing kind of at Chive Charities at the Chive. It's like random acts of kindness and ripples make waves. So let's say you donate $1 or you share a Chive Charity story. chances are that's going to impact someone, and that person's going to go out and tell someone else. And you don't have to donate to Chive Charities. You're probably just going to feel good. Like our rallying cry is, we want to make the world 10% happier. It maybe lightens your day a little bit more, where you're going to hold that door open for the lady behind you, or you're going to buy coffee for somebody, that's not expecting it. And you're just making the world a better place. Well, with Roz in particular, there was she really wanted a gray Honda Odyssey, and there were a couple of dealerships that reached out to us, and they're like, you know what, we would love to help her. We'll maybe give you a discount. And then all of a sudden, Miami Valley Honda dealers came in, and they were like, you know what, we're not going to be able to give you guys a discount because we're going to give Roz the whole van. So the Chivers a couple of weeks prior had helped raise $45,000 for Roz to get her van. And that was in the matter of 7-8 hours. And what we didn't tell in the story that Javier put together in a video, incredibly, you should go watch that video, is that this family had so many needs inside their house. They had exposed wires, they had uneven flooring. And for Roz, who has a limp, and if she falls down, it could be pretty harmful. Just all of these things that need to be fixed in their house. And Roz's dad is a building contractor. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, Roz's mom had to quit work to support the family, or to support Roz. Roz's dad was working 16 to 18 hour days. And there's no way that, Roz's mom could go to Roz's dad and say, could you complete this after working so hard to support our family? So it was just the biggest weight lifted off of them, because of the Chivers and because of the amazing community. And it's not just Chivers, it's just, it's people that read these stories, and, people that are sharing it. And we try to get in front of eyeballs that maybe have never donated to anything, and they, read this or watch this video and they cry, and they can't help but donate $5 to Roz. So it's just a testament to storytelling, kind of hitting those universal themes, which is what we try to do. So you may not know someone with Rasmussen encephalitis, which is very, very rare, but you do know someone who looks like Roz, or says something like Roz, or they love the Little Mermaid like Roz does. And so it kind of like endears you to these recipients. And then again, we're just following up. So we're going to do a follow-up post on Roz. She's going to come to the Green Gala. So the donors that changed her life are going to get to meet Roz in person. And, I think things like that go a long way, and they're pretty unique.
With each story, and this is just one story.
This is
one story. And now you guys are basically doing the Flash charity campaign. I want to say almost quarterly now, or something along those lines.
Quarterly to twice a year.
Imagine getting one of these stories, and they've since 2012 been doing this, and each one has its own gravitas to it, like this weight that you're like, I don't want to be a horrible human being. I want to help somebody out. And I love how John puts it a lot of the times when he's getting interviewed about this kind of stuff, and how you just put it is, when you give to a cause like this, you just have a better day. Like, you feel better about what you did that day, and at least you knew, or at least you know that what you're doing is going towards this cause. One of the things that I want to ask, because you're talking about the 100% of the proceeds going to the recipients, how do you guys get paid?
So, any nonprofit has some sort of people volunteering, or some sort of, so we are about 70% covered, all of our expenses, with 70% of our revenue comes in through our monthly donors. And then we've got, people that go out and fundraise for us, and that's another like 10%. And then you get company matches that come in, and that's, 4%. And so everything, you've got this big pie of revenue. And, we do use some of that to, pay salaries, to make sure that contracts are good and things like that. So there is overhead. For example, last year, or 2017, we finished at about 81 cents on the dollar goes directly to helping recipients. And, this past year it was pretty close to that. So, there are two different ways that we help people. So when I say, you're donating directly to Rosalind's Flash charity campaign, we are opening up a GoFundMe account that goes directly to Rosalind. So it's under Rosalind's Ann Abbott's name. And then, what we end up doing is, we change a life, and then we say, hey, if you want to help the next Roz, could you donate to Chive Charities directly? because none of that money actually comes to us. It's going directly to that recipient.
Exactly. When a flash charity campaign happens, it's literally all of that money is going straight to the crowdfundme. Now that it's crowdfundme is a thing. It goes directly to the person. Yeah.
So that $13 million that you talked about, we've now helped over 320 recipients. Most of those are individuals, and with each one of our recipients, Chive Charities will step in and do some sort of grant on our own, and that's kind of funded by the white knights that are our green fund donors, and those are the donors that donate monthly to Chive Charities, and they lead the way because there's always going to be a specific need that we're purchasing a van, or we're purchasing a power wheelchair, or building, renovating a bathroom. That's covered by Chive Charities. And then sometimes we meet these recipients and they just have such a bigger need, and there's such a great story that could have a huge impact and inspire millions of individuals, that we say, you know what, we're going to do a little bit more here, and we're going to raise an extra $10,000, which will ultimately turn into $40,000, or we want to raise $25,000, which will turn into $75,000, because that's just the way that our donors and our recipients, or not our recipients, but our community kind of looks at it. They think that a goal is just like, John says it. It's a stop sign on a lone country road. Like, no one's going to stop for it. You just blow right past it. And I think, our supporters take pride in what they call Hulk smashing a goal. So, we've, knock on wood, we've never not hit a goal. One of our biggest goals was, we've had them at $100,000, and every time it's like we put it out there and it's already hit within 3, 4, 5 hours, no matter what it is. And usually we're smashing right through it, double, tripling, quadrupling it.
I will say John's really good at writing stories. One of the things that Brian kind of grazed over was that they haven't not missed a goal. If I said that correctly, they haven't missed a goal yet. And being a part of that, when I create some of the videos for these campaigns, there's a lot of weight there. And
certainly.
This is not something easy. Like, every single campaign that happens is a completely new story, and each one is, I'm sitting up at night and I'm like, how do we get this money for these people that can change their lives?
Yeah, to market these individuals, and what John does better than anybody is, like you said, tell a story, and he knows how to pull those heartstrings, like we say.
So well.
He will come with an idea that seems out of left field, and it's like, well, we've never done that, John. And it's like every time and time again, it's like most people that read these stories are crying, and then they get to the video that Javi helped us put together, and then they're crying again, and then it's like they can't not send it to someone. They can't not donate at least $5. And then when you do that, you're feeling so much better. But one of the things that John does with these stories is, like I said, hit those universal themes. So you feel like this person. And also with the videos, like, you're living in there. It's like, that could be your cousin, that could be your little sister, that could be your grandpa that we're helping. And we try to put you in their shoes to make you feel kind of the despair of what they've been going through, and then also the elation of knowing that the Calvary is coming and we're going to make a difference, because that's what we do.
For those that do donate, following up with the recipients, with the blog posts, but you also brought up Green Gala, where it's a living, breathing person that you have been giving your money to monthly, or in terms of the fund. And then when you come out with the stories, you see these stories keep coming. But then at Green Gala, the recipients are actually there. Like, the people that are donating can go up, shake their hand, and have a conversation with the actual recipients. That's powerful.
It's so cool because the recipients will fly in recipients, and they're like, this has been so magical. Like, I got to say thank you to hundreds of people who helped change my life. And then the other people are over here saying, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so invigorated. Like, I'm going to tell my friends, and like, I want to help more. How can I do more? Can I give more? Because I just met little Zoe, or, I met Kenzie, and, it's just like, it's just this philanthropic, feel good night. And yes, there's booze. Yes, there's dancing. There's little kids running around. Emberlyn who has no legs is sitting up there and dancing harder than anyone else. And it's just a magical, magical night. So if anybody has the opportunity to go to Green Gala, I would say definitely go.
Segue, we talk about your process, how at this point you guys are helping out so many people on a weekly basis. Do you have a board? What does it look like? When you choose people to help out, it has to be one of the hardest
processes. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for bringing that back up, because we just did our quarterly board selection where we made the decisions a couple days ago, and I just got over it. But thanks for bringing it back up. No, so the application process, we've got it online. So about every 3 months, we'll get 150 people that start applications. Of those 150, there's maybe about 90 that actually complete it, because throughout the completion process, people start to get kicked out because they don't meet certain criteria. And we've got a bunch of different criteria. Some of those things being, financial need, lack of public awareness, how rare is the condition that you have, how much money have you already raised, as far as even down to how many followers do you have on Facebook or on Instagram. If you've got 2 million followers, you don't need our public awareness. You don't need our microphone to tell your story, because you got a community backing you. So all of these things, there's about 10 to 20, depending on whichever category we're helping, of variables and things all come together, and about 75% of the process is objective before anybody actually sees the case. Then Angie and Kelly will go in and take a look and add a couple more variables in there. They'll start screening. They'll start talking with these recipients. They'll start talking with doctors to make sure that, people have what they say they have, what they're requesting, the items line up with what their doctors say they need. If somebody's coming in and is asking for a Cadillac Escalade when all they really need is a Honda Odyssey, that's kind of a red flag, obviously.
Yeah.
And so they'll kind of cut that down. Those 90 will become 50 or 60 that they'll actually take to the board selection committee, where we sit down, we put it up on the 80-inch screen. And this is that difficult part. It's the most rewarding day and the hardest day as well, but they do a really good job of kind of making it snackable. So it's tell us the story. Who are they? Where are they from? What are they asking for? What's our budget? How many of these vans can we actually purchase? How many renovations can we do? How many rare medical therapy items can we get? So it's just kind of going through all of these. And from those 60, and all 60 of these people are 100% worthy and we could help them, but you have to whittle it down to 15 to 18 sometimes. Well, I think we just did 22 or 23 this last round. So you're cutting that potentially by 60% to get to, 16 to 24 individuals that we're going to help, depending on, budget and everything. So from there, Angie and Kelly have kind of the hard job of telling those 30 people, like, hey, sorry,
you have to call them up and tell them they're not. Oh no,
we have to let them know. But then on the flip side of that, there is the, we're going to help you. And so that, and the toughest part is really, you get down to having, say, $100,000 left to spend, and you've got 30 people to help. Like, how do you choose those last 2 people that are going to get 2 vans at $50,000 a piece? It's tough. But, it's a decision that we have to make. And, we kind of look forward to helping those people. And then we have some that are in the maybe section. And depending on what happens, because we will tell people that, yes, you're accepted, but we may not be able to help them for 3 months because just the way the budget works. If we had, 5,000 more monthly donors, we could help a lot more people, but we don't. So we kind of have to schedule
Speaking
things
of,
out.
where can people see Chive Charities to become a donor?
So they can go to chivecharities.org. We're Chive Charities on, Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Tell your kids, tell your wife.
I cut you off, but I think that was basically
that's kind of the end. It's so we're basically going through that right now, where we've selected our recipients. We're kind of completing the prior quarters recipients and now jumping into what will be July, where we're going to start helping those 24 new individuals. So if you do the math, it's, we're going to be doing pretty much 1.5 to 2 per week going forward. So it's a lot of work. And you want to present these stories in the best way possible. You want to connect with the audience every single time, but you don't want to overdo it. So it's just kind of like finding that balance.
For the people that know somebody in a 501c3 that or owns a 501c3, when it comes to getting money, what's the biggest thing that's been your guys's, I want to say silver bullet, but I know there's a whole bunch of stuff.
It makes a lot of sense. Well, first of all, I would say like you got to find obviously something that you're passionate about. Let's say you're trying to start a 501c3, and you got to find like, is there a community out there that wants to do what you want to do? And then when it comes to the storytelling, like everything's storytelling. So if you're not telling stories, you're not doing it right. I don't care whether you're advocating for whatever you're advocating for, who you're trying to help, what you're trying to do. You got to tell a story that connects with your audience. And so, find those universal themes. It's not all about just talking about what happened, but build up the personality. People want to help someone that they could see themselves being friends with. So we're not just going to tell you Kenzie has to live in a bubble because she gets sick very easily and she has had this surgery and this, that, and the other. We're going to tell you that Kenzie loves going to Disney World and she, used to be a cheerleader and she can't do that anymore. And, you're going to build up that personality so people feel like they're friends with Kenzie or, that they can't not reach out and do something for her. Doesn't have to be donating, but tell someone about Kenzie and maybe they'll donate. So I'd say just hit those universal themes and tell that story in a way that's compelling.
Got it.
And ask. Because if you don't ask for it, people will tell a story and not like actually have a good call to action. So what's your call to action? Like for us, it's help the next person. It's, if you didn't donate that $5 today, this veteran that had a gun in his mouth and was thinking about pulling the trigger wouldn't have gotten his therapy dog that comforts him and is keeping him from doing something that, we obviously don't want him to do. So yeah.
And heavy hitting all of a sudden. And it's chivecharities.org, correct?
Chivecharities.org.
Yes. And some of the videos are by me. Another one is by another amazing video editor, Andy Fenberg, and he makes a lot of the Green Gala videos. I would say if you want a primer into what we've been talking about, just look up Green Gala and the Chive and you'll see any of the stories from any year.
Maybe we can link below. I don't know.
We could talk all day about the actual recipients, but seeing them firsthand is a whole nother experience. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, bro.
And please, if people are interested in donating to this cause, chivecharities.org. I'll say it one more time because threes, chivecharities.org. Until next episode, live a life of abundance. And if you guys did find value in this podcast, please share it out. Or if you think somebody would like to hear about this charity, please share it out. And you can tag Chive Charities on all the social things. Until next time, live a life of abundance. Ooh, you could do that. Can you do that? Awesome.